What the Palestinians do in cases like this is they provide a pension to the killer's family. And the more Jews you kill, the bigger the pension. In other words, a subsidy for the rest of their lives. Let me ask you something. Why are we giving tax dollars to that? Over in Israel, the Palestinians are slaughtering citizens again. They're saying it's in reaction to what the Israelis did when they went into one of these Palestinian-held towns. What happened is the IDF sent in some of their soldiers, or perhaps Mossad as well, dressed up as Palestinians. And they went in because there's a terrorist cell that was building there, and they got word of it, which tells you their intelligence is unbelievable. Probably have a lot of human intelligence. They were gathering weapons and so forth for a major attack, so the Israelis snuck in there, but then they were discovered. There was a shootout, and 9 or 10 of the Palestinians were killed in the shootout, as most of whom I think were the terrorists. So they say in reaction to that, this 21-year-old on Shabbat, which, to put it simply, is basically when the sun goes down on Friday to when the sun goes down on Saturday. That's not the exact definition. It's good enough. He was standing outside a synagogue in Jerusalem, and when the people were coming out, he started murdering them. And he killed 7, he injured 10, and then he was extinguished. As the newspapers like to say, he was killed. I do notice, though, and some people sent it to me, on the internet prior to his attack, he was bragging about that he was going to do something without specificity. And you could see the commenters, the Palestinian commenters coming in and saying, "May Allah be with you, good luck to you, God bless you, thank you," things of that sort, because the brainwashing from a tiny little age up until adulthood of the Palestinians by that regime, by both regimes, whether Hamas or the Palestinian Authority, about killing Jews and hating Jews is nonstop. Donald Trump cut off funding for the Palestinians because what the Palestinians do in cases like this is they provide a pension to the killer's family. And the more Jews you kill, the bigger the pension. In other words, a subsidy for the rest of their lives. Let me ask you something. Why are we giving tax dollars to that? Trump cut it off. Biden has started it up again. So you can assume some of your tax dollars will go to some of the killer's family. What the Israeli government has voted to do is to tear down the home that this killer lived in and to take his family off social benefits and so forth in response, as well as obviously trying to determine if there's any other predators. So that's what took place. And I want you to take a look at this now. Now you have some context from the BBC, January 8th. Israel arrests 42 after the deadly Jerusalem synagogue shooting. Go.
Israeli police say that 2 people have been wounded in a terrorist attack just outside the old city in occupied East Jerusalem. It comes a day after...
All right, let's stop a second. You see where Jerusalem is? How could it be occupied East Jerusalem? Jerusalem is their capital. It's not occupied. The BBC can't help itself. In fact, the British can't help themselves. Many of the problems that exist in post-World War II area here, the state of Israel, is a result of, in many respects, the British. But that said, it's not occupied East Jerusalem. You see the West Bank there? It's not the West Bank. You see where Jenin is there? Judea and Samaria are the original geographic location of the Jews. They're older than even Jerusalem. And so when they keep calling it the West Bank and it's an occupied West Bank, do we say that the Indian reservations are occupied American territory? No, they're the indigenous peoples, right? And the left says that more than anybody. Well, the Jews are the indigenous peoples that every part of this map that you can see. The dark red and the lighter red. Go.
Palestinian gunmen killed 7 people near a synagogue. Israeli police say they have arrested 42 people in connection with Friday's shooting. The gunman was killed. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has urged Israelis not to take matters into their own hands. On Thursday, 9 Palestinians were killed during an Israeli military raid in the West Bank town of Jenin. Our Middle East correspondent Tom Bateman reports.
They came to pray as the Jewish Sabbath had just got underway. As the night ended, police were counting their bodies in the street. Security forces say the gunmen arrived at the synagogue and opened fire. Some people were hit in the panic to get out before the attacker managed to escape and drove off. Then security forces shot him. Well, this is just a few meters from where the shooting took place, close to the synagogue. Forensics teams and police now looking at this car. You can clearly see the bullet holes on the driver's side. Witnesses told the BBC the driver then managed to get out and run before being shot dead.
I heard shots, there were flashes, and then I saw a car here open, body of the terrorist down. He yelled, "Allahu Akbar." There's no security in the streets. We need to go down and find these terrorists, ruin their houses, take them out of Israel.
At the scene, the head of the Jerusalem police said the attack was one of the worst Israel has seen in years.
The attacker is a resident of East Jerusalem. We are completing operations at the scene. Right now, unfortunately, we are talking about 7 people killed and another 3 seriously wounded.
As the wounded were taken to hospital, security forces closed off nearby areas, searching to see if anyone else was involved. A deadly attack on a Jerusalem synagogue as the world marked International Holocaust Memorial Day. It comes as tensions flare in the region. On Thursday, 9 Palestinians were killed by Israeli forces during a raid into Jenin refugee camp in the occupied West Bank. The dead included militants and at least 2 civilians, according to health officials. Israel said it acted on intelligence of imminent attacks by Islamic Jihad, a Palestinian militant group. They called it a counter-terror operation. In the aftermath, the group vowed to respond. Several rockets were fired on Thursday night from the Gaza Strip, shot down by Israel, which then launched airstrikes on a base operated by Hamas. The escalating violence follows the most deadly period in years in Israel and the West Bank. In Jerusalem, the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu arrived at the scene of the synagogue shooting, as did his controversial new police minister, while some residents called for revenge. Now security forces are piecing together exactly who was behind this deadly attack.
Yes, he's controversial, you see, because he is the leading representative of a religious Zionist party in Israel. So for the BBC, that makes that individual controversial. It's ridiculous. So that's number one. And number two is that you'll notice the difference. The Israelis are going in trying to destroy a terrorist cell. The reaction by the Palestinians is to slaughter citizens.
Want to see more? Sign up for LevinTV.